Dan Wright, Sangamon County State's Attorney, appearing today with another guest interview on behalf of promoting unity through public interest law. A little bit of a different set of content today. Normally, we're interviewing public interest lawyers about what brought them to the field of public interest law, educating young people about different careers in public interest law, and how they can make a positive impact in their community, both immediately and also over the long term in careers in public service. But today we take a little bit of a different route on an equally important issue, the topic of tolerance and justice in general, and how you as young people can have a positive impact on your community and learn more about those that are different from you, and how you can serve others in your capacity as a citizen of this world. So I am really proud to have Alison Pure-Slovin with us today, and she is the Midwest Regional Director for the Simon Wiesenthal Center, which is out of Los Angeles. But there's also a component of the organization that is out of Chicago. So we're very happy to have Alison with us today. And again, the mission of PUPIL is multifaceted, but certainly the cause of tolerance and justice is key to the mission of PUPIL, and we're very happy to have you here, Alison, today. Can you give our viewers a little bit of background about the mission of the Wiesenfall Center and the Museum of Tolerance?
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to speak with you today and to your viewers. To understand who the Simon Wiesenthal Center is, you have to understand or know who Mr. Wiesenthal was. So Mr. Simon Wiesenthal was a Jew who lived in Vienna, and unfortunately during World War II was captured and put in a concentration camp. He was a survivor of 5 different concentration camps. And upon liberation, he weighed 86 pounds and he lost 89 members of his family. The nice part of the story is a year later, he was able to find his wife, and she had survived as well. He was an architect before World War II, but literally as he sat there on death's door, he realized that the Nazis were walking freely out the gate as liberation was happening. And he started trying to record as much as he could so he could help the Allied forces. And at that time, the Department of Justice, I don't remember the department's name, I apologize, it was set up to try to bring Nazis to court to try them for the injustices or the murder that they had done. Long story short, following the war, he continued on that path. He did believe in justice, not vengeance. He believed that we should fight for justice, that perpetrators of genocides need to be brought to justice. And through his lifetime, he died at 96 years old. He was able to record about 22,000 perpetrators of the Holocaust. But unfortunately, upon his death, only 1,100 were brought to justice. And so it was his lifelong mission. As we were looking to build an educational facility in Los Angeles, because 40 years ago, there were no Holocaust museums in the United States, our founder and dean wanted to buy property and name it for Mr. Wiesenthal. And he went to Mr. Wiesenthal, and Mr. Wiesenthal told him, Rabbi, if you want to memorialize the past, I will give you a letter of recommendation. If you want the center to bear my name, then you will become a social actions organization, and you will work today to change tomorrow, because it's not the first and the last, unfortunately, and he was right, Holocaust or genocide that we're going to see. So when you go to the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles, which is our educational facility, you will learn about the Holocaust, but you'll learn about it from the perspective of what hate and propaganda can do, and how ordinary people, unfortunately, were part of the problem because they bought into the narrative of Hitler, who couldn't have accomplished murdering 6 million Jews and 4 to 5 million others if it weren't for ordinary people. So we are on the, and from there you learn about other genocides, because Darfur, Rwanda, Cambodia, we have it going on in Nigeria today. We talk about tolerance education for all people. And we are still, as I said, we are a NGO, a non-government organization to UNESCO. So we do work in the international arena everywhere, fighting for the rights and the justice for all human beings.
Before we move on to the involvement of the museum and the center in Illinois, how would you define for students the concept of tolerance as it pertains to the mission of the center and the mobile museum?
Thank you. And that is a very good question, because I've got it asked it often, like, why are we the Museum of Tolerance? Isn't tolerance a difficult word? You just tolerate me? But if you look at it from the perspective of, if you can tolerate someone enough to be in the same room with them, and I hate to say it that way, but if you can sit down and start a conversation, then you will learn from each other that you have more similarities than differences. And that's like a large part of the mission of the Sangamon Wiesenthal Center, is to build bridges between people, to find our commonality, to see that we're all human beings. We have a workshop called Space to Talk About Race. We have a lot of educational components to what we do. We do believe in education. Well, race, if you use that word with students or adults, many will say black and white or fake. At the end of the workshop, you realize we are talking about the human race, because each and every one of us is part of a human race. So tolerance is the same thing. If you can tolerate the person that you think you have no commonality with, or that you think you don't like, but if you start and engage in that conversation, you will learn more that there are similarities between us. And I have that many times, because I am, as someone says, I wear my Judaism on my sleeve. I am unabashedly a proud Jew, but people, who we talk about anti-Semitism, and people say, oh, but you could hide your Judaism because you're white. Well, why should I hide my Judaism because I have white skin? That becomes another whole conversation. Should I have to hide in this country my religion? Shouldn't people respect it? Or I'm a woman, there's issues there as well. So those are all those conversations that we have in our educational facilities, and it's a safe space to have them.
Great explanation. And I just from my own perspective, and trying to explain some of these concepts to my own children, the idea of tolerance, it sort of suggests a lack of engagement, and you're tolerating somebody, you're just, you're existing apart from them and not engaging with them. Just you're not harming them, but you're not engaging in any kind of efforts to further mutual understanding. But really, I think in the way that you just described it, the term tolerance, as it pertains to the mission of the center and frankly PUPIL, is really that active engagement to promote mutual understanding, humility, and as a result, collaboration to have a positive impact for everyone in our communities.
And I have to give you a great deal of credit, because you're having the conversations at home. The conversation that we're having, or we do in our educational facilities, or we do in our workshops, is our responsibility to teach. But I also still believe it's you have to engage these conversations at a young age with children, and many people don't. No one is born hating. I'm sure you've seen many posts over on Facebook where it's, a child who's African American and a child who's white, and they're dressed the same, and they hug each other and they say twins, because they don't see the color, and we shouldn't see the color. So we are teaching hate in so many instances, and that's what has to change in this world. So good for you for having the conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you again for being here. And then, so great segue into the work of the center and the Museum of Tolerance in the state of Illinois. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So we are very excited, and Illinois deserves a great deal of applause for the grant that they gave us in the budget 2 years ago to build the first in the United States mobile Museum of Tolerance. It is a bus, an RV, however you want to look at it, though it doesn't look like an RV anymore. It's a theater on wheels, it's a field trip on wheels, and it's going all over the state of Illinois to schools, community centers, or groups who request it. And it's, as I said, it's the educational component of the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles, using the same way of teaching in workshops. We use historical context to teach in 45-minute workshops to students or others about what history was and where are we today and how we can change tomorrow. The same idea that Mr. Wiesenthal wanted. So, for example, you might see a film on civil rights, which is a great discussion about where we are at hate in this country. And we do it in all of our workshops, whether it's one about Holocaust or civil rights or Anne Frank or anything, lead to the same discussion at the end with the students. It's a safe space, and it's to talk about inclusion. It's just to speak about how to become a bystander. If you're at school, for example, and someone's being bullied, what do? Do we tell an adult? Do we allow it to continue? Do we face the person who's, the perpetrator of it? Bullying is a form of hate, and it creates a lot of problems. And we as adults sometimes hear uncomfortable jokes from our quote unquote friends. Now, do we say something, or we just sort of shoo it off because we don't want to deal with it? I'm guilty of shooing it off, but I'm trying to be better about it and saying, you know what, that made me uncomfortable. I don't think that was appropriate. We need to say those things. So we've created the Mobile Museum of Tolerance. As I said, it has 32 seats in the vehicle, so it's a full classroom if COVID allows us to continue in a full classroom. And we have very important dialogues about inclusion. We have to talk about racism, anti-Semitism, hate, faith-based hate. We talk about sexual orientation. We talk about gender identity. These are very important conversations that not necessarily are happening in the classroom. I'm not sure that's the educator's responsibility. But Dan, the most important thing is also before we come and following, there is on our website, mmot.com, curriculum for educators. You can't have this conversation for 45 minutes and expect students to go back in the classroom and not continue it. And what's nice about it is all of the workshops that we're doing are also in conjunction and have been looked at by the Illinois State Board of Education. They're a great partner to what we're doing, and they are thrilled to have this curriculum because what we're teaching is all mandated by the state of Illinois.
Excellent. It's just, having been there once, I was just in awe of the genius of the idea, and just the appearance of the mobile museum is really well done. And on the inside, I mean, I had the opportunity to watch the short film about the civil rights movement, and I know there are other films that are available there. And as Alison said, their website mmot.com has just a multitude of resources for educators and students as well. And so please check that out, mmot.com, and we'll put that link in on our Facebook page, on the PUPIL Facebook page. I really liked on the MMOT website the statement of what the purpose of MMOT is. And if you don't mind, I'll read that and then let you talk more about the mobile museum and the future of engaging with students in Illinois. But the website says the purpose of the MMOT is to inspire people of all ages and backgrounds, empowering them to raise their voices and combat anti-Semitism, bullying, racism, hate, and intolerance, and to promote human dignity. And that, I think, really expresses kind of the confluence of the mission of PUPIL and the MMOT, and that whether you are a doctor or a teacher or a public interest lawyer, all of us can get behind those objectives, and to make our society a better place for people of all backgrounds to live. And so I'm really passionate about the MMOT being more active in our area, and I just really appreciate your time again.
Thank you.
So what would you say is a way that students can draw upon their own life experiences to be agents of tolerance and a positive impact in their own communities?
So I've learned a lot from our students, though I'm not the educator and the boss. I've been with it many times, and I would tell you, a student raiser, as they're leaving, we always ask them to think about what's the one thing you can do tomorrow, today, this moment, to make it a better and more just society, or with more dignity for human beings? And one student raised their hand at the end of the session. It was early on, and they said, you know what? And we were in COVID, no one was in person except for the few on the bus and some zooming in. And student raised their hand and they said, you know, before COVID, so-and-so would sit every day in the lunchroom by themselves. After COVID, I think I'm going to sit with them at lunch. And I have to tell you, for me, I was like, I had goosebumps. I said, you understand it. You understand what we're trying, what the thought process is. And another student, after hearing that, thought and raised their hand and they said, you know what? I haven't spoken to X in 6 months because of COVID, and they're not very popular. So maybe I'll give them a call and see how are they doing. And it's those reach outs and those little lessons and those moments that are going to make a difference. And the MMOT right now is at the Illinois State Fair. It's open today until 6:30. It will be open again on Sunday. We are not open on Saturday. But one of the students who came in, and we were discussing, and he turned to his mom and he's like, I've been telling you, it's been terrible. So-and-so at school's been bullied, you know, and I guess his mom called and they're trying to help the student, but he was just fine. But thank God he had a mom that he can go to, and he felt that he had, you know, someone who would understand and help with that. But those are the kinds of things that students and adults need to think about in our own lives, because we see things. Let's talk about the internet. Let's talk about what's going on in the internet. Hate on the internet right now is at an all-time high. I don't know if you are aware that Twitter is allowing the Taliban to tweet their messages right now. It's a terrible situation. We're working hard about it. The Simon Wiesenthal Center has been filing hate on the internet for 36 years. We do have a report that you can get on an app. Hold on, let me give you the right name of the app. I apologize. It's called Digital Terror and Hate. It is our app that shows you what's going on. We update it all the time. It's the games that you can get. It's the rooms that you can go into to continue the hate on the internet. We work with Facebook and all the big social media giants to try to get them to take down hate on the internet. It pops up very quickly. We're actually going to do an ad into the bus, social media literacy. It's a workshop that we've been doing for a long time. We want to bring it to Illinois, and it just so happens that Illinois mandated social media literacy as part of the educational component. We've been doing it for 25 years, so this was a no-brainer for us, so thank God. So I have a colleague coming in from Los Angeles in this coming week, and we're going to do focus groups with educators. We want them to see the material. We need to report hate when we see it. You see it on Facebook, you see it someplace. There's got to be a way that people are more tuned to it and aware of it. Students are being contacted on the internet by ISIS. It astounds me every time we go to a classroom and we say, who here has been contacted by ISIS? 10% of the students that I have met in Illinois have said that ISIS has contacted them and through social media in one way or the other. So the hate on the internet is really something that we need to be much more involved in.
Thank you, Alison. I'm just combating the lights that are on a timer in my office. It's the Sangamon County saving a lot of money with the automatic light turn off.
That's good.
Yeah. So again, thank you for being here today. And I want to make sure that folks out there know about how they can learn more about the Wiesenthal Center and the mobile museum. We've talked about the website, mmot.com, but talk a little more, if you would, about how students, parents, educators, and administrators can learn more about the resources available through the center.
The best way, of course, to learn about the resources available is to go to mmot.com. In addition to that, the website will take you to the Simon Wiesenthal Center website, which gives you more online information. now that, when the museum was closed in Los Angeles, we had to do more educating on via Zoom like everybody else. So there's more resources available. In addition to that, Dan, I think it would be interesting for you to know that we just did a updated the museum in Los Angeles in our social laboratory. We received a grant from the state of California to redo it. It was a $15 million project. And part of what we're going to be teaching now in the museum in Los Angeles, and we will bring to the museum in Illinois, is we're going to be doing a workshop on democracy. We feel that people don't understand democracy, don't appreciate the democracy of this country, and it's something that we need to educate about again. So the Mobile Museum of Talents will be ever changing as we get more resources from Los Angeles. We will keep adding in additional workshops in MMOT, which is really exciting for us as well. And if students or anybody wants to request MMOT, there is a way to do that on the website. I'm delighted to tell you that as of now, we still are bringing it to communities at no cost. I do have donors who are sustaining it for now, and we will continue to try to get grants and maybe some budgeting from the state of Illinois. We do not believe that this should be paid for by the schools, because I don't want to get into a situation with the haves and the have-nots and who has the money in their budget. This is an important vehicle for all schools. And so at the moment, as I said, thank God we are bringing it to schools at no cost. And that's very important to us. And the other thing that we're going to be adding as we are ever evolving is there will be, and we've done it two different law enforcement in counties, but we have something. If you go to the Simon Wiesenthal Center's website, wiesenthal.com, WIESENTHAL.com, we have tools for talents for law enforcement, for first responders, and our Tools for Talents program and workshops will be available at some point to talk about implicit bias, to talk about that within the Mobile Museum of Talents as well. So that's another aspect that we're excited about. And the other additional educational component that we have for students in schools is, without the Mobile Museum of Talents, you can request to have a speaker via Zoom who is a survivor of a genocide. So we have people from the Holocaust, we have Lost Boys of we have Sudan, Darfur. So we have other types of ways to be educated about what the proliferation of hate can do, because that's really how genocide happens. It has to do, and hate has to do with the proliferation of hate, and it's important for people to see those who survived it.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because that, COVID has brought a number of things, but it's on the side of progress, it is, I think, highlighted to us the value of remote communication, and that allows you to bring resources into the classroom that you couldn't bring in person from other parts of the country or even the world. So I think that's a resource that really is rich for educators out there. I'm sorry to interrupt. Were you going to say something?
No, I'm interrupting. Before you highlight, there's another component that we have that's fascinating that we can bring, and that is, and we vet them very carefully. So know that if we say that they're former. But we have a few former National Socialist Movement white supremacists, neo-Nazis that we work with as well. One of them is from Germany. One of them actually is the highest ranking member of the National Socialist Movement to leave the movement. And he was their marketer on the internet. And he feels guilty because he said, I did this for 25 years. So I helped grow hate in this country. And it's a fascinating journey to hear how any of them why they got into the movement. None of them grew up in families that taught them hate, why they got into the movement, and their journey out. And those are incredible resources for many people, not just for students, but law enforcement, for, you know, people in your positions to learn from, because they've taught us a great deal and they keep us aware of what's going on and how again, the internet is being used for hate and how it continues. Sorry. So you were going to bring up two things.
No, I was going to just bring up two quotes to kind of round out our interview here. One is from the MMOT website and it's from actually Simon Wiesenthal, and it says, freedom is not a gift from heaven. We must fight for it every day. And I think not just in the United States, but when you articulate examples from all over the world, you can't take that for granted. And even those of us who enjoy the freedoms that we do in the United States, I think we have an obligation to as citizens of the world, to do what we can, whether it be large or small, to help others in our community and across the globe. So the next quote that I'm sure you're very familiar with is, be the change that you wish to see in the world, right? From Gandhi, who happens to be pictured on the side of the Mobile Museum of Tolerance, right? Along with Rosa Parks and others. And I say that, and we've mentioned that quote before on some prior interviews, but I think that really resonates with young people because, you know, you can't be, you know, an international social, you know, activist at 12 years old or 15 years old, or, you know, maybe you're not a public interest lawyer, or maybe you can't, you know, pursue your dream to be a doctor and to help people in that way at this moment. As you mentioned, you can always sit down next to the new kid in school, or read a book about the civil rights movement or the Holocaust, or visit the Mobile Museum of Tolerance as a way to improve your understanding of those that are different from you in the world, and the past mistakes that have been made in our society that have harmed generations of people in our communities. And those are small things that you can do to literally to be the change. And so I think that is a great way to highlight the importance of taking advantage of resources like the Mobile Museum of Tolerance and all of the educational resources that you all provide. And I thank you again for being a part of the PUPIL interview series, and wish you the very best in Illinois and the continued mission of the center.
Thank you. And thank you very much for allowing me this time to educate your viewers about the Mobile Museum of Talents. And thank you for being a fan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hey, have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.